Welcome to another episode of the Game of Inches Basketball News. The first article we're going to be taking a look at is Steph Curry's injury should worry the Warriors. So with that being said...
So I actually saw the injury this morning, or like 30 minutes ago with DeMarcus, and it didn't look at all pretty, I will say that. And honestly, worst case scenario, he tore his rotator cuff, which is not good at all. DeMarcus, you were saying, and if you want to jump in here, you can, because you were saying he could have dislocated it, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's the best case scenario, he just tweaked it and he'll be back in a week. Worst case scenario, he needs to get surgery.
They're gonna say it. When I was looking at it, he either could I say either pulled it out of socket or like maybe a dislocation. But also I feel like the Warriors as a team, this isn't this isn't good for them because they already been playing poorly with the entire team like healthy and ready to go. They still been losing games, and I had them as a middle of the pack team in the West and a possible play-in team. But now with this injury and like with them playing so poorly, I feel like they just might miss the playoffs. Also, I feel like the Warriors need to they need to trade Draymond Green. He's supposed to be the leader of the team. However, he keeps getting ejected, and then he only put up 1 point last night, and that's not a good look for if you somebody who's supposed to be a leader and you want that big contract. So I feel the Warriors need to move Draymond Green. Yeah, they need to move Draymond Green and just move on from him.
Draymond Green, not only did he only have 1 point, he had 600% more turnovers than points.
Holy
so he had 1
shit,
point
dude.
and 6 turnovers. He literally, as a fantasy player and fantasy scorer, had -7 points last night.
How do you do that?
Negative points for your fantasy team last night. And he was playing quite a few minutes too, so it's not like he didn't have his opportunities. I don't know, but the other thing, really quick, I wanted to ask you guys, did you guys notice if he tore or if he injured his shooting arm? Or was it his off ball?
Oh, good point. Oh,
It was the off ball. It was his left.
Oh.
All right, for sure. Well, either way, you use both arms to a degree in your shooting motion, so
Oh, yeah.
I would say this is highly concerning for the Warriors. So I'm not trying to jump to conclusions, but when it comes to potential bad situations, this definitely sounds like it could be one of them for the Warriors. So
Yeah, no, yeah.
hopefully
I'm not-
everything's good for stuff. I think probability suggests it will, but who knows?
Yeah. No, I don't think it's like, obviously I'm hoping for the best. It's similar to how a quarterback needs his other arm to throw a football. Like, look at Baker Mayfield. The reason why Baker Mayfield's a whole other story, but he's a perfect example of why you need your other arm. It's not, obviously that's football compared to basketball, but it makes sense, right? You need to have your other arm for basic shooting mechanics.
And even with the off arm, you still got your dribble moves if you want to get into that rhythm of your shooting motion. Sometimes people use that dribble move to get into that motion, and also Steph, not only is he a 3-point shooter, but he could also get to the lane and score with either hand. You also have to wonder how would that affect him when he do go in for the layup, and then he come down and like when he hit his body on the ground, if he might retweak. I can't get my words out, but re-injured that same arm. That's another thing to also look at. But Draymond needs to go. 1 point ain't good. And what you say, Kevin? 600% turnover rate?
Yeah.
Hey, get that man out of here. No wonder that fan.
Not a turnover rate, but a turnover to assist was 600.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's just bad, bro. And you're supposed to be the leader of the team. Like, come on, man.
All right, so in this article, we're going to be taking a look at the Pistons and Alec Burks, and they spoil LaMelo Ball's return to the floor with an overtime win.
I like that fact that LaMelo Ball is back, and the fact that he dropped a double-double last night, 23 points with 11 assists. And it just goes to show like the type of player he could be for the Hornets. And even though they still lost, and it was an overtime loss, so even though it's 141, 134, if you could get your team into overtime to help them have a chance to win, that's still good in my books, even though you guys still lose. And I feel with LaMelo Ball back in the lineup, like it could help the Hornets add more wins in the win column for them.
I made a pretty hot take, at least in my opinion, a couple of weeks ago regarding the Charlotte Hornets, and I just wanted to point out that it has finally come to fruition. the Detroit Pistons in their win last night over the Hornets took the second to last place in the league or in the conference.
Oh my God, you were right.
The Hornets as the worst team in the NBA.
Oh my God.
So they are now winning the Victor Wembanyama race. So this was a big game for me in that perspective, as I wasn't quite too sure that the Hornets were actually going to tank, but it is surely happening, and they're losing to the Pistons. So I think getting LaMelo Ball back this early will help their chances going forward, and I don't think they will be the worst team in the league with him back on the roster, but I just wanted to point out that they did make it to the worst team in the league temporarily.
I completely forgot you said that. But okay, it's great that LaMelo's back for the Hornets. What did I say?
No, I just remembered that from the last video. That was funny.
I said LaMelo. What else did I say?
You almost said Lamal, and it reminded me of that. So
Lamal.
My bad, I interrupted.
Who the fuck is Lamal?
You get your minute over.
It's okay. Who the fuck is Lamal? I was actually curious. Do you think the Hornets will give him limited minutes if they're trying to tank?
That was kind of my perspective, is I think if they do end up in a situation like they're in now, they are going to limit LaMelo Ball. Like, you might see him being held out of games to rest his ankle or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So that kind of did play into my thesis, was the Hornets are going to find themselves in a really bad position to where they can't ever recover to the playoffs. So in that situation, they just hold LaMelo Ball out for...
Yeah, so like DeMarcus was telling me, or this is something DeMarcus was telling me earlier. If Steph Curry's injury is not major, they should still keep him out for a month, right? Or like that, you said something similar to that, right?
Yeah, like at least he might be out at least a month.
And that's purely just for like safety precautions, which is completely understandable. And Anthony Davis.
All right, so in this article, we're going to be taking a look at the Los Angeles Lakers team payroll, as their contract situation is pretty weird. They're kind of almost like the Yankees, how they have a whole bunch of really big contracts on the team. They're not necessarily like the Yankees, as they can afford 2 teams worth of another team's salary cap, as the NBA doesn't necessarily let that happen. But as you can see from this article, you have 3 major contracts within Westbrook, James, and Davis. So it doesn't really leave a lot left over for the rest of the team, as you guys can see. Kory, would you mind highlighting the guaranteed column with your cursor so that viewers can see what we're talking about? Yeah, cool. Thank you.
And only 2 players that I have, LeBron and AD, will be on the contract. Yeah, I was gonna say I like it for the Lakers as far as cap space. Like they can, of course, if they don't trade Westbrook, I highly doubt they resign him or like bring him back. And if they do, it's gonna be on a like for less money. But as far as going into free agency with more cap space to like spend and go out and get another like an actual valuable player who they know could come in and score. Let's say for Kyrie, for example, because I believe he'll be a free agent going into this off season if Brooklyn don't re-sign him. So it gives them more money to be more flexible in the off season, and they could take this season as a this season and last season as a like a one that they're going to look back on and see, okay, this is where we went wrong. We need this type of player here to build around LeBron and AD. And now we had the money to go out and spend instead of trying to like find trade pieces and be desperate in the trade market. We could just take our time and just spend money in the free agency. So it's good for the Lakers.
So I do agree with DeMarcus. The free agency will be a great time for the Lakers to rebuild. I do want to make one differentiation. I don't think letting Westbrook and Kyrie make it to an expired contract is necessarily a good idea. You can get some pretty good trade assets in return for these two, even if it's just a pick. And if your goal is to unload the contract, getting a pick is better than losing him to free agency. So I think both of those players are going to be targets going into the trade deadline. So I think that's interesting, but worst case scenario, even if it does end up free agency, they're going to be able to do a lot with the free cap space. And really quick to agree with Kory, LeBron and AD mesh really well, in my opinion. What doesn't mesh well is the amount of time both of them are injured. So a lot of times, like both of them end
good
up
point.
missing like a third to half the season. So while they're on the floor, they play well together, but it's hard to get them on the floor at the same time.
I want to say something about the trade you just said, Kevin.
Yeah,
I believe like with since Kyrie and Russ is both on expiring contracts, I don't believe a team would trade like they would trade a draft pick for them since they don't know if they're going to get them back in the off season. Especially like with Kyrie with his history with the teams he's been on. It's like he'll like commit to a team, but then you will see he's ready to get off that team.
well,
'Cause
I mean,
would. Go
both
ahead.
those players don't have a guaranteed future if they make it to free agency, especially Westbrook being the prime
Yeah.
example. If he makes it to free agency, like chances are he's going to be signing a John Wall veteran minimum contract of just over $6 million. So
Yeah.
if you're able to trade him, you can use that leverage as a player to actually negotiate a real contract for, I would see him on the right team getting anywhere from 15 to 30 million. Whereas if you waited till free agency, he's probably a veteran minimum or maybe like a $10 million contract.
Yeah, he probably still will. And also, I was gonna say the fact that he's coming off the bench and playing well also it boosts up his trade value because like in the beginning of the season with him struggling and getting all the negative press, it brought his trade value down. But now that he's starting to do well off the bench, it brings up his trade value and it shows the team that he's willing to come off the bench to produce for the team. So I believe Russ might get traded before the trade deadline before Kyrie because the Nets might try to keep Kyrie. I don't see somebody giving up maybe a late first round pick that give up for him, or even like a second round pick that give up. But as far as like a first top 15 pick for either Russ or Kyrie, like I don't see a team doing it or taking that chance anyway.
I think the Lakers
I
would be
could be wrong.
more excited about picks, where the Nets would be more excited about trying to find more depth to replace Kyrie. So if you get two really good players for one great player, I think that would be something the Nets would bite on because they don't have a lot of depth. So I think that would how you would have to be structuring the trade for Kyrie as opposed to Westbrook.
Right. Yeah, people give up some players for Kyrie.
Yeah, and if you can improve your depth, I think that's what the Nets really need to make a push. So I think with that, we will wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. I hope there's some fun games to watch tonight, and we will catch you guys in the next episode of the Game of Inches Basketball News.